Welcome to today's press conference. With us today, Dr. Chong-Shuk Kwan, Head Communicable Disease Branch CHP, and Dr. Sarah Ho, Chief Manager, Hospital Authority. And the two doctors will bring us up to date on the COVID situation. Dr. Chong, please. The total number of COVID positive cases has stood at 1,799. 642 are PCR positives, 1157 are RAT positives verified by PCR, 118 are imported cases, 81 are PCR positives, and 37 are RAT positives. Cumulatively, for the fifth wave, the number of positive cases stands at 1.225246 billion. There are no reported cases from the hospital authority. There are 601 positive patients who are in hospital. 99 are newly confirmed patients. Of those who are in the isolation facilities, 201 are in the isolation ward, 18 are in the Tier 2 isolation facilities, 185 are in the North Lantau Hospital ICC, 83 are newly confirmed patients. Yesterday, we haven't reported any serious or critical cases. Now, for those in the hospital, 11 are in critical condition, 12 in serious condition, 3 critical patients are in the ICU for treatment. For the recent patients, they are of mild symptoms. The number of patients being hospitalized has increased slightly, but those who need ICU or in critical condition, the number has not surged. The number remains at a stable level. Yesterday, we didn't have any deceased patients. Of the 118 imported cases, 62 are picked up at the airport, 54 coming to Hong Kong by 16 flights and 8 coming on 24th of June, and there are 53 picked up at the quarantine hotel. Some are picked up after they've left the quarantine hotel, one with a high CT value and one repositive case, and there are 2 with a lower CT value. They've been out and about in the community, their local cases. There are 2 care homes for the elderly with new cases. One is UK care home, come day care center. There are 2 residents and 2 staff members who have come down with COVID, and investigation is underway. There are 40 or so people who have to be quarantined. The other one is the Manfa Chun Basin care home, and there are 30 or so residents and staff members who have to be quarantined. And Fu Tai Elderly Home, there are 3 more residents who come down with COVID. There are 10 residents and 5 staff members who tested COVID positive. Today is school holiday, but there are some updates. The FDBWA Zito Ho Secondary School in Kwun Tong, 2C, Class 2C, there were some positive cases, and the class had to be suspended for in-person classes. 3C, there are 4 cases. This class has 35 students, and they have to be suspended for a week. Our investigation didn't show an epidemiological link between 2C and 3C, although investigations will go on. St. Stephen's College, there is a hostel with some cases that have to be quarantined, and there is another block, college home, dormitory, 4th floor. There are 3 positive cases involving 3 students and 1 staff members. The warden has come down with COVID. On the same floor, there are 9, including the flatmates and some close contacts that have to be serving quarantine. For the 3 students, they are from class 4B. There is another positive case from 4B, although not flatmate. And for 4B, we recommend that this be suspended for a week. For the subvariant, there is one who lives in Ga Chai Lei in Tuen Mun, suspected to be a BA4.5. His family member tested positive in quarantine. Now for BA.2, 0.12, 0.1 cases, there are 11 more, 2 cases from the Victoria Harbour restaurant. They are patrons there at the restaurant. So in this outbreak, there are 3 additional cases, taking the total number to 36 patrons and 4 close contacts. Or 38 patrons and 4 close contacts, I should say. For the other cases, there are 4 from Fu Hong Care Home. 4 cases are related, and 3 are residents from the Fu Tai Elderly Home, and 1 from Tong Yuk Estate and Tong Yuk Court. And there are 5 without any source, any link. They're living in Oxford Court, Braemar Hill, and Bradford Garden, and also Shing Lei Avenue, Hoi Xun Gui, and Caribbean Coast, Yu To Hin, Block 11, and Leighton Hill 2B. Or Leighton Hill, as you say. So much for me for today. Thank you. 51 patients have recovered yesterday. 58 patients have been discharged in the 5th wave. 51,643 patients have recovered. 51,302 have been discharged since 2020. 64,023 have come down with COVID. 60,682 have been discharged, and there are no patients picked up upon admission screening. For staff members, 24,154 have come down with COVID, and 23,912 have since recovered and returned to their posts. For PWH, yesterday we mentioned an oncology mixed ward outbreak. Today there is 1 more nurse and 1 more patient assistant who tested positive, although they are in stable condition. We will continue to liaise with the center to monitor the situation. Thank you.
Floor is now open to questions. Please put up your hand. Our staff will pass you the microphone. Before putting your questions, please tell us your media outlet. The gentleman over there, please. I'm from Now TV. A question about the Prince of Wales Hospital. Yesterday you mentioned 4 patients and 2 nurses are infected. Today an additional nurse and a patient care assistant are infected. What's DHA's assistant regarding the outbreak, that is the risk of an outbreak at the ward? Does everyone in the ward have to be quarantined? What would we do about these people? The second question about Fu Tai Elderly Home. New cases are emerging. Will the entire care home, that is everyone in the staff and every resident, have to be quarantined? Or will they be undergoing quarantine in place, or will they be sent to quarantine centers? Third question, Victoria Harbour and its link to the Fu Tai Elderly Home. We're seeing new cases in both clusters. Is there a link established between the 2 clusters? Is there any test being done to see if the viral strain is the same for both clusters? Now, for the Prince of Wales Hospital, we have investigated the 2 cases. That is as to its link with the cases identified yesterday. The investigation will continue, so will the contact tracing. The ward has stopped taking in new cases. Visits have also been suspended. We have thoroughly disinfected and cleaned the place. We will closely monitor the situation. That is the health condition of both patients and staff members. We will remain closely in touch with the CHP and follow up where necessary. For Futai elderly home, some have been sent to quarantine centers. We will keep monitoring the situation. If needed, we will send more people to quarantine. As I mentioned yesterday, at Futai elderly home, 2 people visited the Victoria Harbour restaurant. They fell ill on the 17th and 18th of June, respectively. And more cases emerged at Futai elderly home. Now, both are suspected carriers of the BA.2.12.1 subvariant. The whole genome sequencing result is still pending, but they may be linked cases. Next question, the lady over there. I'm from cable TV. Now, the current practice is that if someone got infected within the last 3 months, they don't have to be quarantined. But there's a suspected reinfection case at Futai elderly home. Is there a need to review the existing practice to expand the scope of quarantine, such that those who are catching a strain other than the BA.2.12.1, the 3-month rule will no longer apply when it comes to determining whether someone has to undergo quarantine? After all, elderly care homes are a high-risk venue. Is there a need to review this existing practice? At St. Stephen's College, the boarding section, have you found out the source of infection for the transmission there? How did the transmission happen there? For St. Stephen's College, we haven't found any link with previous cases, but there are many cases in the community at the moment. People may have got infected in the community, and then the virus found its way into the boarding section of the school. The link between the cases will require further investigation before we can tell. For Futai elderly home, the suspected reinfection case, they make up a minority of the cases. For cases at elderly homes, we look at the CT value of each case. Now, it doesn't mean that someone got infected within the last 3 months, then that has to be a reinfection. Next question, the gentleman over there. I'm from Mingpao. For Futai elderly home and Victoria Harbour restaurant. The restaurant, yesterday, was the deadline for the compulsory testing notice. According to the CHP, how many people have yet to get tested? For the restaurant, based on the initial investigation, what's the environment like? What's the ventilation like? And what's the estimated route of transmission? Apart from the 2 workers from Futai elderly home and the case of suspected reinfection, at Futai elderly home, how many are suspected carriers of the BA.2.12.1 subvariant? And for St. Stephen's College, the boarding section, how large is the boarding section? How many people are involved in the boarding section? What's the mechanism? How do things work? Like, do students return home over weekends? How many days do they stay at the boarding section? Pfizer and BioNTech have released initial findings regarding their vaccines. It says that the vaccines provide a certain boost in immunity for the different BA subvariants. Do the authorities see a need for our city to bring in these U.S. vaccines? Do they provide sufficient protection against the existing mutant strains we see? And for Victoria Harbour restaurants, we will need to wait for the relevant department to conclude the investigation before we can tell what the situation is like with the ventilation. 3 additional cases involving BA.2.12.1 are reported from Futai elderly home. We had some previous cases. The other cases are also suspected carriers of the BA.2.12.1 subvariant. For St. Stephen's College, the boarding section on 4th floor, 12 people stayed there. 3 have now tested positive. The other 9 people have to undergo quarantine. For the boarding section, people stay there and take showers there. As for vaccines, I don't have any update here. We have a mechanism in Hong Kong. If there's a need to bring in new vaccines, there's a mechanism to review such necessity. Next question, the lady in black. I'm from Hong Kong 01. The 2 care homes reporting infections today, UK and Culture Home. When did the infected people test positive? How many COVID vaccines have they received? As for where the infection levels are going, do you see there's a slow increase? Today we see a level that's close to 2,000. Does it mean that we will see more than 2,000 tomorrow, and will cases keep rising for the remainder of next week? For the 2 care homes, the people infected there. At Culture Home, the person hasn't received any jabs. As for the other cases at UK Young Care Home cum Daycare Center, 3 had 3 jabs, 1 had 2 jabs. These are infections reported today. Onset dates 23rd to 25th of June. At Culture Home, this infected person fell ill on June 25th. On the same, that is yesterday, this person tested RT positive. The infection levels are rising slowly. There's a chance that it will rise even further. Next question, the gentleman over there. I'm from AM 730 at Fu Tai Elderly Home. If the infections go beyond a certain level, the whole care home will have to be quarantined. Can you elaborate on that? For the 10 patients, can you clarify their symptom onset date? So such that you're sure that they happened after the 17th or 18th of June. Yesterday was the deadline for the compulsory testing at Victoria Harbour Restaurant. How many people are involved? For the school, you mentioned St. Stephen's College. Did you say Class 4C or Class 4D? Do they have to undergo quarantine in place, or can they undergo home quarantine instead? The school in Lam Tin, you mentioned Class 3C and 2C. You said the classes are unrelated. Do both classes share the same floor? Are there teachers teaching both classes? Anything suggests that the cases are unrelated? At St. Stephen's College, the girls' dormitory, it's Class 4D. And they have to leave the boarding section and undergo quarantine elsewhere. If their home environment is not suitable for home quarantine, they will have to go to a quarantine center. Now, for the FDBWAC, the whole secondary school, the two cases are unrelated, but we will have to investigate further and clarify the matter. For Fu Tai Elderly Home, the people fell ill after 17th or 18th of June, but I don't have further details at hand.
Speaker not speaking through. Right, CTN, there are 30 or so for whom we haven't found the record. Some are still pending after the test. We will continue to track them. Speaker not speaking through. It consists of a number of floors. We'll have to ascertain whether these are the places that are subject to quarantine. If there are cases that are on different floors, then more will have to be quarantined. I don't quite remember. I think it is second or fourth floor. No more questions. That's it for today. Thank you all very much.